Nord-Sud 98.9, Centre 97.3, Est-Ouest 91.7. RM1, la radio nationale.
RM1, it's 9 o'clock. The news presented by Aries Stewart. Good morning, Aries.
Good morning, Sophie.
We start with the headlines.
MMM Politburo to meet under intense pressure in Rosehill as alliance tensions resurface, and Paul Béranger awaits a decisive cabinet meeting. Mauritius marks 1 year since the 2024 general elections and the historic 60-0 amid renewed uncertainty over the country's political stability. High stakes in court as Nasser Biki's bail motion returns with promised revelations linked to the Rabatomanga money laundering probe. Police amendment bill heads to Parliament with provisions allowing foreign investigators as government pushes sensitive legislative reforms. Government prepares to unveil new rent-to-own housing scheme designed to help low-income families finally access home ownership. In world news, US Senate moves to end 40-day shutdown. And in sports news, Manchester City dominate Liverpool 3-0 as Reds slip further down the Premier League table. All eyes this afternoon will be on Ambrose Street in Rosehill, where the MMM's Politburo is meeting in an extremely tense political climate just 4 days after a near break in the governing alliance was narrowly avoided. Officially, the priority for the party leadership will be to take note of the reactions from the 20 regional committees following Saturday's essential Central Committee meeting. Within MMM circles, no one believes Paul Béranger intends to make any decision before Friday's cabinet meeting, a meeting considered decisive by the leader's closest advisors. Indeed, during his meeting on Friday with Prime Minister Navin Ramgoolam, Paul Béranger clearly placed on the table several issues on which he is unwilling to compromise. The activation of the Constitutional Review Committee, as well as a first concrete step by the Prime Minister toward electoral reform, are for Béranger two non-negotiable sticking points that will determine his personal future, and not necessarily that of the MMM within the governing alliance. Other matters, notably involving the Prime Minister's close circle at the PMO, are also considered sensitive. However, for the moment, Paul Béranger is willing to accept, quote, a first step in the right direction. Yesterday in Kyopip, the solemn Remembrance Day ceremony, though dedicated to honor former servicemen, was overshadowed by the deafening absence of all MMM senior officials, including leader Paul Béranger. While Prime Minister Navin Ramgoolam and President Dharam Gokul were present, this boycott by MMM ministers and MPs is being interpreted as a strong signal of defiance. It comes just after a fragile truce narrowly saved the governing alliance the previous weekend, highlighting that deep tensions persist between the partners in power. It should be noted, however, that the MMM leader told the NBC yesterday that his absence should not be overinterpreted and that he does not usually attend the Remembrance Day ceremony. And on this 10 November 2025, as tensions simmer between the Labour Party and the MMM, Mauritius looks back on a key moment in its political history, the 2024 general elections exactly 1 year ago today. That election had been marked by voter fatigue, a tense campaign, and a turnout of 79.3%. 1 year later, as questions arise regarding political stability, the country also remembers that historic vote which led to the third 60-0 outcome in its history. A look back at this decisive chapter in the political landscape with this report by Rajmila Sitamoni, voiced over by Lovina Sophie.
This Monday, 10th November 2025, marks the first anniversary of the 13th general elections held since 1967. The 2024 election had been a major turning point in Mauritius' political landscape, driven by a wind of renewal and a growing sense of fatigue toward the long rule and repeated controversies surrounding the MSM government. Parliament was dissolved on 4 October 2024, launching 5 weeks of an intense and highly charged electoral campaign. Tensions rose further after the release of audio recordings attributed to several public figures, including Kobita Jugnut, the Prime Minister's wife. These leaks circulated under the name Monsieur Moustache, spread widely across social media and fueled heated debate. Then on 1st November, the temporary suspension of social media platforms caught the population and business of God. Officially linked to a cyber attack, the measure triggered a wave of anger before access was restored the following day. On 10 November, Election Day, an exceptional mobilization was observed from the early hours. Long queues, crowded polling stations, and voters determined to make their voices heard. Turnout reached 79.3%, representing nearly 795,000 voters. After an evening marked by high tension and supporters keeping vigil around counting centers, the results came in the next day. Mauritius recorded the third 16-0 win in its history, a 16-0 win which 1 year later now appears visibly fractured.
The bail motion for Nasser Biki will be called before the Port Louis District Court this afternoon. According to his lawyers, Samad Golomali and Ashley Urangi, their client intends to make certain revelations when he takes the stand. As a reminder, Biki has been in custody since 18 October as part of the investigation into alleged money laundering involving Malagasy businessman Mami Ravatumanga. On suspicions of influence peddling, the Financial Crimes Commission accuses him of attempting to influence the institution's former commissioner Junaid Fakim, who resigned after learning he was under investigation and was subsequently arrested as well. Meanwhile, Mami Ravatumanga remains hospitalized at Victoria Hospital in Condos, while an anonymous letter is circulating claiming that his life is in danger in Mauritius. And moving to Parliament, where the Police Amendment Bill will be presented to the National Assembly this Tuesday. The bill seeks to amend the Police Act to allow the Commissioner of Police to request the services of specialized foreign investigative officers. Gigi Rose and Lovina Sophie tell us more.
The aim of this reform is to modernize investigations carried out by the Mauritian police. These foreign investigators will be able to share their expertise with their Mauritian counterparts in conducting complex or large-scale criminal inquiries, particularly in areas requiring advanced technical skills. However, a key clause specifies that these experts will operate under the direct supervision of a Commissioner of Police and will have no power of arrest. This measure is intended to strengthen the investigative capacity of a police force while preserving Mauritius' sovereign authority in matters of law enforcement. The government is presenting this project as a crucial step toward improving the effectiveness of criminal investigations without compromising national control over police operations.
And in other news, a new housing program inspired by the rent-to-own model will soon be introduced by the National Housing Development Company. This program aims to help families who are unable to access existing financing schemes to become homeowners. The Minister of Lands and Housing, Shakil Mohammed, will hold a press conference today to outline the eligibility criteria and details of this housing scheme. And it's 9:08. You're listening to RM1, where we move to international news. The US Senate on Sunday advanced a measure to reopen the federal government and end a 40-day shutdown that has halted federal work, delayed food aid, and disrupted air travel. In a procedural vote, senators moved forward a House-passed bill that will be amended to fund the government until January 30 and incorporate 3 full-year appropriations bills. The package must still clear both the Senate and the House before reaching President Donald Trump, a process expected to take several days. As part of a deal with several Democrats who broke from party leadership, Republicans agreed to hold a December vote on extending Affordable Care Act subsidies for lower-income Americans, which are set to expire at year's end. The motion advanced by a 60-40 vote, the threshold needed to overcome a filibuster. The bill also bars federal agencies from firing employees until January 30, a win for federal worker unions while delaying Trump's efforts to shrink the federal workforce.
Les actus sportives.
And finally in sports, where Manchester City swept Liverpool aside yesterday at the Etihad Stadium with a commanding 3-0 victory. Erling Haaland once again was the key man. The Norwegian saw his penalty saved in the 13th minute, but made up for it by opening the scoring in the 29th. Liverpool thought they had equalised in the 39th minute, but Robertson's goal was ruled out for offside. And just before halftime, Nico Gonzalez doubled City's lead and Jeremy Doku sealed the result in the 63rd minute. The outcome, Liverpool dropped to 8th on the table, suffering their 5th defeat of the season, while Manchester City remains 2nd in the Premier League. That's all from me this morning. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay